Miranda, and here is Rich Clark, our great friend, college football playoff executive director, who we've had on since the day basically you were announced as the new guy. So, man, is there anything that gets people fired up more than trying to figure out what the heck you're trying to do as not you, but the college football playoff itself?
Trying to figure it out, but I will say we're making progress, right? It's not fast progress, but we're taking one step at a time. We're being real deliberate, but it is just it's moving, and we're going to get there. I promise.
How would you compare this because of your military experience? You have had serious conversations about many more serious things than the college football playoff.
Yes.
But it is warring factions, so to speak, people who don't have the same goals in mind. How would you compare it to that, and how do you use that experience in these things where you have to get people that are set in what they want to a compromise?
Right. No, Paul, that's a great question. So I will say one of the things that I can compare it most closely to is Congress, right? Because you have these leaders that have a responsibility to their membership or their constituents.
Right.
Yet they have to look out for the greater good of the country and the decisions that they make, but they can't forget about what they were actually voted into office to do. They were voted there to take care of their, as a congressman, their district, or as a senator, their state, but they have to look out for the country, and they took an oath to do that. I think our commissioners are in a similar situation. They are paid, they are hired to look out for their conference and make sure that they are representing their conference in the best interest of their conference, but they still have to look out for the greater good of college football and college athletics in general. So it's a hard position that they're in. I don't envy them, but I completely respect their position and understand it. So what we have to do is find the common ground, find those places that we can agree on, and rest our laurels there and try to move it forward. And that's what we try to do.
Do you sense from your position how college football fans are concerned about those decisions, not just ADs and football coaches or even you, but that they're concerned that there's a separation because of two conferences that are like the 800-pound gorillas, and one of their commissioners, Sankey, is very outspoken about who they are and what they are and who they are and what they do.
Right. No, I think people are concerned that there's a separation, but it kind of goes back to what I was saying. The separation is that they're looking out for their conferences, which are vastly different. I mean, all four of the A4 conferences are very different. Their interests are different, and what they're after is different. But in the end, they're working together. I mean, they do actually talk together. I know people may not believe that, but they're working together to try to get to a solution. And it's going to take some compromise because nobody's going to be completely happy when it's all done. But hopefully it'll be a situation that is right for college football and that we can move it forward.
Did it throw things not for a loop, but I would think that the Big 12 having one and then we're possibly with two, that's twice as many, the number, not as much. But when all of a sudden Brett Yormark at the Big 12 goes, no, let's do 5 and 11. Let's go make us earn it. Did that kind of change things a little bit?
Well, I think, it's another model, right, that was put on the table that I think some of the commissioners gravitated towards. The AQ model is still there. It's still on the table. It hasn't been taken off. So the way that it changed it is it puts something else out there for people to look at and to consider. And, I think until you have something different, because before it seemed like the AQ model was really the prevalent model, it was one that was on the table. Now you have another one. So it gives them something to talk about. It gives them something to look at to determine what are the benefits, what are the cons of each of these. And that helps the discussion to move forward so that they can look at, the good and the bad of each of them and figure out what do they like and what do they not like, move it forward.
The AQ is, I think it's maybe just as a fan, it's hard for me to wrap my head around like saying before it starts, we're going to have this many from each league because we don't know how the season's going to go.
Right.
And so while most of the time that might be how it happens, it would eliminate the chance for that magical season of chaos. Right.
Yeah.
To me. And that's why I like 5 plus 11, just as a fan, be like, look, whatever happens. If one team gets 7, well, salute to them. They earned it. Like, good for you. That's I think how fans feel about it, and how the commissioners feel about it. Again, that's the divide you also have to bridge as the director too.
Right. I think what the AQ model does is it brings some certainty. You know, you talk about chaos. One of these models brings a lot of certainty, a lot of opportunity for planning in the regular season. The other model really does bring that chaos that a lot of us really like. You know, that we like to see. You know, in the last weeks of the season, what's going to happen here? Who's going to make it? Who's going to win? Who's going to lose? Who's going to step on their foot and not get in because they did something crazy in one of their last games? A lot of people like that, but sometimes certainty is where people gravitate towards. So I see why the AQ model is there, but I think that a lot of people gravitate towards the 5+11 just because of that chaos and that excitement that it could bring to the season.
I would compare it to, we could walk through the Louvre, we could walk through the Met, and somebody could be like, man, that Whistler's Mother is one heck of a painting.
Right.
And it's it's a beautiful painting. It's there, it's that. And then I can turn the corner and be like, man, that Jackson Pollock
I knew you were going to say that. I knew you were going to say Jackson Pollock. I should have said it out loud.
That Jackson Pollock, I don't know what it is.
Yes.
It speaks to me because now there's chaos that goes on in college sports that is not beautiful. You deal with it every day. It's stressful. But there is a beauty to chaos when it comes to sports. There is a beauty to it that I think as a fan, I love. The unpredictability of it, that to me is what makes it great. And while it could, the nerve-wracking part of it, if you're a conference commissioner in one of those AQ leagues that's going to get 4, I get that. But that's also what makes it fun for us.
Yeah. Great example. I think that says it perfectly. Some people like that Whistler's Mother. Some people like that Jackson Pollock. It depends on where you are. But, one of the things that I think is at the center of a lot of this is the selection committee, because some folks don't have the same amount of faith in the selection committee and what it does and what those folks who are in that room what they do to make the decisions that they make. But they also add to the human element of all of it, to the human part of what football is all about. And so there is a lot of chaos in the 5+11 because it does rely on the selection committee. It doesn't leave it to the automatic selection of those teams before any human even gets to look at it. So you're right. It's about a little bit of certainty, a little bit of structure that we all know what it's going to look like, to this chaotic, uncertain, who knows what's going to happen at the end of the season, who knows what single game might explode everything and change it. But that, it depends on what you like.
Was the rush to go from straight 12 to 16 because of money?
No, I think it was because of access, right? Each of the commissioners is trying to ensure that their conference has the best access to the playoff as they can. And obviously, if you have more teams that are involved, if you go to 16, you're opening that access up just a little bit more. Now, to your point, though, that does mean more money. But if you're a coach, you want a shot. Give me a shot. Let me have my opportunity to play. And I think that's really the big driver, is people want access. And so, we'll see how that lands. Is it going to be 12, 14, or 16? We're still working through that.
I think one of the things that the committee is people forget that you could look and still, like Brett Normark talked about earlier, that audit the standards and see okay, where have we missed? Where have we maybe leaned too much on history? Where did we not look deep enough before? And then you can revise those standards. Right. You can put more models. You can have, how many other computer models you can put in to give some more data. There's an infinite number of things that you could do to fix the standards that they need to be fixed, or revise them in a way that makes it scheduling and all those things. So I think that's saying the committee, throwing the baby out with the bathwater. before we go to AQs, I would just like to see like, okay, let's see if we kind of tweak some things in the committee if that does it, because I think that's a lot easier to do than revamping a whole thing.
I have a lot of faith in the selection committee. Having sat through it all of last year and actually sat through a couple of sessions the year before I started, just as sort of an introduction. But I have a lot of faith because they're a group of people that have a lot of integrity. They have a lot of data that they need to look at, and they watch a lot of football throughout the whole process. They really bring a great amount of expertise, a great amount of preparation to the table, and the discussions. Sometimes I'm sitting in that room just going, I can't believe I'm here listening to these people that have lived their lives in college athletics and football in particular talk about the things at the level that they do. I mean, I've heard experts talk about things my whole life, my whole military career. They're as professional as it gets, and they take their job so very seriously, and they do check their egos at the door.
Does that then burn you when you hear people say they don't want to leave it to the committee?
Well, I understand what they're saying. You know, there's a thought that you can have all the integrity and all the data that you want, but a human being just can't get it right. Back to your point, Paul. Yeah. It's like there's that chaos that a human being brings into a room like that. But that's kind of the beauty of it. And we don't want to go just to a computer model. We don't believe that that's the way to do it. We've done that before in the BCS, right? We had it as a computer model. People didn't like that. We brought human beings into the loop, and that's where we are. And we're trying to find that right balance. Let me tell you one funny thing. In the military, AI, unmanned vehicles, you know, we have aircraft that are not piloted by people. They're piloted remotely. And one of the things that we know is that you can have all the AI you want, but war is a human endeavor, and you have to have a human in the loop to do that. You cannot leave that to a computer because it is a human endeavor. Football is a human endeavor. Ugh. You cannot leave that to a computer to determine what happens on the field and what actual people are doing. You need people to be involved in that to determine who's really the best and to understand what happened on the field.
Great analogies with your paintings and then with that too. Yeah.
We ought to write a book together.
Man, let's do it. No, I think that, like, again, you can have those computer models as guides, I think, to where you can, because you do need something that maybe helps you separate the minutia.
They're tools.
Like, it's tools. A tool. It shouldn't be, because the thing that the human has to do is when you have so many things, you're going to have, say you have 16 teams in the playoff. When you go to 16, there's likely going to be about 24 teams that might be able to make some sort of argument, right?
Yes.
So then the bottom four might be easy to whittle off most years. But it's that next four where you're going to be splitting hairs, especially with common opponents, where, like, okay, Michigan State beat them by 17, but they beat them by 22. Well, that's not really different.
Right.
That's a 3-score game. So because one was
weather could have been involved.
Yeah, exactly.
Yes.
So like
injuries.
You're hitting it all.
So like that's where the human has to come in and be like, look, they were playing in a foot of snow, you know, and they still won by 3 scores.
Right.
Like, you know, like that means something.
That stuff matters.
Yeah.
And only a human can understand that and see that. A computer is not going to get that, right?
So if we did that, like, the thing people, they think, I know I've heard a lot of people say, we should just go back and dict the computer model. Like, oh, you want to be mad?
Yeah.
You'll be mad at C-3PO.
Yeah.
2008, there was controversy.
Another analogy. That's good. We got 3 now.
In 2008, there was they had that, and it still was a mass amount of controversy with Oklahoma and Texas and whoever else. So you were at Offutt Air Force Base. That's where I was born.
Really?
Yeah.
I was stationed there. That was my first flying assignment, was at Offutt Air Force Base. I was so young,
but went by there, went up to watch Lincoln, watched Nebraska and Lincoln. Matt Rule set us up, and we went by there, the front entrance of Offutt. I saw that. Nice. I thought I saw that before. Paulie's Barksdale. You was at Barksdale?
I was. We lived in Bossier City. I spent a lot of summers on Barksdale Air Force Base. Like when my mom was working, they would like rotate who had the kids.
No kidding.
Believe me. Yeah, I've gotten in some trouble at Barksdale Air Force Base.
Oh, man. Yeah, me too.
Yeah.
I'll finish with this. I went down to San Antonio this past weekend. My dad was military, so I went to 3 high schools in 4 years.
Oh, man.
2 of them, Chofu High School in Yokota, the Air Force Base in Japan, went there my freshman, sophomore, junior years, and I went down to a reunion. We don't have like a class of '77 reunion. Military brats spread out all over the country. It's like it's the class of '76 to '99.
Right.
That's one of the things. Where did you go to high school?
I went to high school in Richmond, Virginia.
Okay.
My parents weren't military, not military at all, but I grew up in Oakland, California in the Bay Area.
Mm-hmm.
And then my parents moved us to Richmond, Virginia back in '74. So it was quite the shift, from coast to coast.
Oh, my God, yeah. We live in – my dad was at the Pentagon. We were in Springfield, Virginia.
Oh,
yeah,
nice.
And not that far from when you got there in '74. Of course, that's way back. But
Right.
I just love the fact your military background distinguished all the things you've done. And if one thing that, like Mac Rhodes –
yes.
we know Mac well.
Phenomenal.
I did ask him this. Did you lose a bet to have to be the spokesperson for the college football playoff? Because that person always takes the darts.
I know.
That's the one that takes the darts.
He is at the hot seat every week.
It's a dunk tank.
It is. It is. It totally is. Hey, but he is so good. I mean, he is so good.
He loves chaos.
He keeps his cool. Have you seen the shirts that he wears?
Oh, yeah.
Yes.
They're chaos.
Yeah,
That's chaos right there.
Yeah,
But he's awesome.
He is a person that has gone to places like, for example, when he arrived at Baylor, there was chaos, and he kind of thrives on that. So I thought that he might do pretty well.
He will
doing this role for a couple of years.
He is excellent. He's just, I mean, the bottom line, if I was going to sum it up in one word, is leadership. He is just a great leader, and he is passionate about what we're doing. So he's just going to be great. I'm excited. Ward Manuel was fantastic, and Mac's going to take it and take it to the next level.
General, if it's okay if I call you that.
Rich, please call me Rich. Yes, Clark. I am retired.
Retired General Rich Clark with us, Executive Director, College Football Playoff Committee, and Brett Daniels. Appreciate Brett as always. Thanks for your time today.
Thank you, guys. Always good to be with you anytime, any day.
Yes, sir.
All right.
We'll be back in a moment. Brock Osweiler from ESPN.